The title of this article is very fitting to what's going on today. This came out in the GeorgiaStateSignal.com, March 8th, 2018. The new opium war. That's exactly what's going on today. And China is, as you can see, going around the globe, taking full control over this planet while drugging up the white people here in America. If nothing else, it is probably one of the most brilliant plans ever carried out on the face of this earth. And it's working. Okay, dead bodies are piling up in the streets of Atlanta because of a deadly, ultra powerful opioid called fentanyl. In recent weeks, Trump has called for the end of fentanyl trade. Richard Baum, the acting director of White House of National Drug Control Policy, says both the U.S. and China are working together to make that happen. We are trading information about what's happening. They are banning substances. We are working together at the UN, he says publicly. Most fentanyls in the U.S. comes from China, the world's largest manufacturer of the drug. Fentanyl production is widely unregulated in China. That's probably why so many people are selling it underground in China, because it's unregulated. And according to the DEA, smaller batches of high potency fentanyl are flown into Mexico, where it is sold to cartels. Cartels dilute and smuggle it into the U.S. Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin, so the lethal dose of a naive user is around 3 milligrams. That's about the size of a grain of salt. It's also very easy to smuggle into the country because 100 doses can fit in a dime bag. With the world's largest airport, Atlanta is absolutely flooded with this drug. Signs of fentanyl overdose are vomiting, constipation, itching, hallucinations, and the inability to breathe. It's possible that fentanyl is being used as a form of chemical warfare that just so happens to be profitable. And that's exactly what's going on. China is flooding this country with fentanyl. And who are they killing? The same people that they had a war with during the Opium Wars. Well, the offspring, but you know what I mean. See, people may take a long time to get you back, but they will get you back. Even if it's generations from now, they will get you back. Count on it. China is a very powerful competitor to the U.S. in manufacturing. In recent years, the American industry has been outsourced to China, leaving the working class without jobs. Well, they didn't care about that when jobs were being outsourced. They could care less. As long as they had a job, they could care less about the jobs being outsourced, which was a big mistake. But hey, it's a day late and buck short now. Mass opioid use destabilize the nation and demoralize the people. Opioids are the deadliest drugs known to man, but overdoses are just one consequence of rising opioid use. The socioeconomic impacts are undeniably bad. It's a very expensive habit. Addicts waste their hard earned money chasing the high. They're slaves of an artificial feeling. Ain't that the truth? Now, that is a good sentence right there. Everything else takes a back seat. School, work, your future, and your family all get neglected. Getting high is generally a user's number one priority. Withdrawals are so intense, fentanyl addicts often turn to crime just to get their next fix. That's why I'm telling you, ultimately, these junkies are going to end up in jail because in order for them to keep up their habits, they're going to have to turn to crime. That's one thing about junkies. They always run out of money. I don't care if they're well-to-do, even living in the suburbs. Eventually, if they keep running to the drug and they have no job and no prospects of any kind of work, they are going to run out of money. There's no way to avoid it. It's going to happen. And that's what's happening. And this is why you see many of them now going into pharmacies, committing armed robbery. Many of them are robbing stores, robbing banks, because that's the only way they can keep up the habit. Okay, whether it's shoplifting or armed robbery, an addict will do whatever it takes to get money. The dealers just sit back and make a profit. This isn't completely unreasonable, as the U.S. did the same thing to China back in the 1800s. So this is nothing but your standard payback that China is doing to America right now. And they're actually doing it at a perfect time because America is now losing their grip on the planet. People seriously are not even dealing with the U.S. the same way they did years ago. And if you don't believe it, like I said, turn on C-SPAN and watch how these other nations talk to Nikki Haley. Watch how they treat her. You'll get the picture real fast. Okay, fentanyl trade is a multi-million-dollar industry comparable to the opium trade in China prior to the breakout of the Opium Wars. Opium is a drug that is very similar to fentanyl and is the namesake of the opiate or opioid class of drugs. During the height of Western imperialism in the 1850s, China met with the U.S. and Great Britain to sign the unequal treaties. These treaties essentially gave the U.S. full rights to sell opium in China. See, this is what I keep telling y'all. This whole epidemic is being fueled by China. See, it may have started out with doctors overprescribing to these addicts, but China kind of picked up the reins by flooding the fentanyl into the U.S. to keep this plague going as long as it has gone, 20 years. Okay? So it's constantly fueled by the drugs that are coming across the border. This is why it has not died down in 20 years. And you can best believe China is sitting back and loving this as they take over Africa, as they take over in trade deals in South America, as they are literally stealing the globe right under America's nose. And they got the money and power to do it because America's millionaires chose to ship their jobs overseas. Now that gave China's economy an ample time over all these decades to grow. It is estimated that China's economy will be the largest on the planet by 2020. And we're what, 2018? It's only, what, 2 years away? They will have the largest economy, which means once they have the largest economy, America will never be able to outperform China in anything ever. They can't now anyway. This is why they got Rex Tillerson over in Africa trying to sweet talk the leaders into weaning them away from China, which is not going to happen. See, China has done too much in Africa. Now, personally, I don't believe any of these foreign countries should be in Africa. But see, China has created a rail service in Africa that runs from east to west. China has put all kinds of roads and highways in Africa. They've hired over 300,000 Africans in a variety of different jobs. When China grows crops in Africa, they give Africa 25% of the crops and then ship the rest of the crops home. But you know why they do that? Because China has a hard time growing on their soil now. See, this is stuff a lot of people don't know. They can't grow food as well as they used to in China. It probably has a lot to do with all the pollution and everything there. That's why they're growing a bulk of China's food in Africa now. Africa got the most fertile soil in the world. So now America just can't compete with what China is doing for the African people. They don't have the money like China has the money. And remember, the U.S. debt belongs to China. So right now, there's nothing they can do but try to convince people to stay with the U.S. and not follow China's lead. And I'm telling you, because China is in there physically doing for the African people, America's going to lose the PR battle. They already lost it. They can't win. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is why they love white privilege. Because when they have to do actual competing, they can't win. And wake up and just look at how China is outperforming them in Africa right now. And the U.S. is admitting they can't pour that kind of money into Africa to outperform China. They can't do it. They don't have the money to do it. China does. Thanks to all the jobs that went overseas, China now has the money to outdo America all over Africa. And like I said, they are putting together an internet in Africa for the first time where it's going to connect 100 million African people. Look this up. You don't believe me? Look this up. China already got this in the works. The problem with America went in there with the colonialism attitude and white supremacist attitude. And that's played out. People are not trying to listen to that crap anymore. Now what they want to know is what you're going to do for them. If it's nothing but talk, you've already lost. You've already lost. You're not going to get Africa back. Those people have sat for too long with nothing. Now they are finally getting something. Now, I'm not crazy about the fact that they're getting it through China, but they are at least getting something and things that they never had in Africa because of China. America offers nothing. And that nothing thing is just not, it's not working. You know, they're now being defeated by their own racism. That's what's happening. They thought that they would be able to practice white supremacy all over the globe, and it would work forever. And China is showing them that it's not going to work anymore. It's not working. They're stealing Africa right under their noses. Okay, back to the story. Okay, Great Britain opened fire on Chinese ports and ships in the First Opium War. The Chinese were forced to reopen trade with Britain on British terms. This meant that British representation, who had no interest in regulating the sale of opium, would take care of customs services in inspecting ports and trying lawbreakers. The U.S. saw Britain's action as an opportunity and followed suit. It's a shameful part of American history. Well, what is it? Slavery is a shameful part of American history. The Opium War, just admit your history sucks. Okay, it's a shameful part of American history, but modern day parallel between opium trade of 1800s and the modern day opioid trade are undeniable. Yeah, they're exactly the same, except for now China got the upper hand this time around and not the US or Great Britain, because opioids are spreading across the UK now. The Chinese government has finally started taking steps to crack down on the manufacture and export of fentanyl. After Trump called out China, the Chinese government made fentanyl and many related compounds into controlled substances. Earlier this year, 2 Chinese traffickers were charged with producing fentanyl to sell via the internet. The dark web has a booming market where all sorts of illegal things are bought and sold. And this is why it's not going to go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. That's the one thing about this country. Money fuels everything, even if it's illegal, dirty money. It doesn't matter. It's still money being made. And as long as money is being made, they don't care how shady, dirty, they don't care who's involved, get hurt. It's not going to go nowhere. Dark web is here to stay, no matter how raunchy it is. Okay. The dark web has a booming market where all sorts of illegal things are bought and sold, from drugs to guns and even prostitutes. The U.S. isn't guiltless here either. The big drug export from the U.S. to China are methamphetamine. So China is flooding the U.S. with fentanyl, and the U.S. is flooding China with meth. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, which cause similar socioeconomic issues to opioids on Chinese soil. According to the CDC, about 1,300 overdose deaths a month in Georgia since 2016. From 2014 to 2015, that's a lot of deaths in 1 month. 1,300 overdose deaths a month in Georgia. Wow, that's just one state. Can you imagine all 50 states? Okay, back to this. The number of overdose deaths from fentanyl surpassed painkillers and heroin for the first time in history just last year. If you know anybody using these or other drugs, don't wait to seek help. Hopefully, over the next few years, the U.S. and China can come to an agreement and curb our massive problems with the drug trade. While the use of any opioids can be fatal, fentanyl is especially deadly because users are often unaware they're taking it. Trust me. If China does make a move, They're going to wait until they take over domination of the world. And then they'll make this deal with America, because by then they're not going to lose anything to America. So they're not going to worry about it. But see, China ain't going to make any agreement until they get what they want. You watch. They're going to drag these talks out for the next couple of years. And when China agrees to this, it's because they have already conquered the world by then. But it's nothing for us to worry about, ladies and gentlemen, because it's all prophesized that Moab would rule for 3.5 years. Their rulership is going to be short because they're going to start acting like America, arrogant races and all, the same path that destroyed America is the path they're going to take. So they won't last long. It'll be a short run at the top. All right, back to this. While the use of any opioids can be fatal, fentanyl is especially deadly because users are often unaware they're taking it. Dealers use it to step on heroin because fentanyl is cheaper and more readily available. Suppliers press counterfeit pills laced with fentanyl in clandestine labs. So these are, undercover, underground type labs. Yes, I've taken some pills. It tastes like a chalkboard, an anonymous freshman in Georgia State said. He also said he knew 3 people who died from overdoses since last year. So if you're thinking about buying some Xanax, Percocets, or any other prescription drug illegally, realize it could be a death sentence. The death of Lil Peep is a tragic example of what can happen when someone ingests fentanyl unwittingly. Hours before he was found dead, Lil Peep posted a video on Instagram where he said, "I just took 6 Xanax. I'm lit. I'm good. I'm not sick. I'm gonna see y'all tonight." The toxicology report states the cause of death was an overdose of Xanax and fentanyl. So no matter how much you respect, no matter how much respect you have, you never know what you're really buying in the streets. Well, the average junkie don't care what they're buying in the streets because their goal is to get high. They don't care. Many of them don't even care what they get high with, just as long as they can get high. Drug dealers do not care if you live or die. They just care about getting your money. Don't buy drugs from shady dealers. What dealer isn't shady, y'all? Wow. If you're selling drugs, take a minute to think about the damage you're doing to people. Drug dealers don't care. They don't care what damage. They're out for money. You can't fault them when America has ran its entire economy like that. You don't care about who gets hurt in the process, just as long as you make money. Wasn't that what slavery was all about? You didn't give a damn about who you hurt, whose lives you were destroying, just as long as you were making money. So how can you now be mad at these drug dealers? Okay? They're making money at all costs. Isn't that the name of the game, America? You cause some kid to steal from his mom's purse. So, you're just causing people to steal money in order for them to get the drug. I mean, this is nothing new. This is what drug habits do to you. You have to realize selling drugs leaves a trail of destruction in your wake. Whatever. I'm skipping over that because, guess what? Drugs have been sold in America since America has existed. People were getting high on this land hundreds of years ago. And the Opium War is not the first time junkies have existed in America. You know, after the Civil War, you had a bunch of Confederate soldiers that were junkies. You know, you can go back hundreds of years and you'll see drug and alcohol habits along the way. This is nothing new on American soil. Okay, remember, you didn't get the cream of the crop floating on them ships coming to America. A lot of those people were criminals, prostitutes, murderers. That's who was on there, and this is their offspring that we're looking at today. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice and join me on Black Junction TV and blackspot.com. Peace, family.